If you have heard any of the things that I'm about to say, I want you to do me a favor and just raise your hand. Like, put a little hand in the comment, put a little one, little church finger, whatever, you feel resonated to put in the comments. But if a man has ever told you any of the things that I'm about to say, very short list, but I'm pretty sure you're going to raise your hand, then drop that in the comments for me. First thing, I don't do things for you anymore because you're not womanly enough. You're not feminine enough. You're not soft enough. You're too in your masculine all the time. Or I stopped doing these things because you nag me too much. You are just always in your, emotions. You're just emotional about everything. You always want to talk. You always want to express your feelings about something. You're always whining or crying about something. I know for sure that if you have experienced any sort of toxicity in a relationship, like, you have probably had this type of dialogue. And I wanted to specifically have this conversation, and I specifically titled this video the way that I did because while I have absolutely no feeling or regard for being accountable for someone else's behavior, let me start off with that. If you are in a relationship with a full-grown, able-bodied, sound mind man, it is never your responsibility to make sure that this person operates in a healthy fashion. It's never your responsibility to make sure or to create an environment that would entice them to want to be respectful, to want to be kind and loving and have strong communication dialogue with you in a relationship. That is not your job to regulate them emotionally or mentally, okay? With that being said, I am all for accountability. And if I'm being completely transparent with you, I was not always a woman who was taking accountability for herself. But in order to really operate your life and align yourself with the type of relationships, and that's just not even, romantic relationships, even platonic friendships, business partnerships, whatever it is, if you want to align yourself with healthy connections, you have to be a woman of accountability. You have to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, does this resonate? Is this real? Did this person have a point? And again, doesn't justify or validate what they're doing or their treatment. But what it does do, if you ever heard these things before, is it can shine a light on the areas that you may want to spend a little bit more time developing or strengthening within yourself. And what you will find as you go through that, as you decide to make those adjustments, what you will find is that if you were in fact dealing with an unhealthy partnership, it is going to disintegrate. Ties are gonna sever because an unhealthy person cannot exist in a healthy environment. They will make it toxic. And if you're strong in your sovereignty, if you are strong in your divine femininity, you're not gonna allow it anymore. So you will find yourself, even as you develop and grow, you will find yourself being almost disgusted with that person. The same person who highlighted the toxicity in you might actually be the same person that assisted you in developing and strengthening yourself and helping to catapult you into your own divine goddess energy. So today I want to talk about some of the things that could be embedded or ingrained. I know that there were some that were ingrained in me that actually had me attracting toxic partners for a while. So I really want to spend some time going through, actually, and it's a pretty quick list because it's not all inclusive. It's just some of the ones that over the years I have really highlighted and I have observed in myself and in others, in terms of these are some of the things that we have going on within us that can actually align us to these unhealthy relationships that we genuinely don't want, but we don't understand or resonate with the fact that subconsciously we are aligned. Subconsciously, this is the vibe, this is the frequency that we're on. And I specifically want to talk about this from the perspective of femininity and the divine feminine and what that really looks like. So I have realized over the years now, I've been in the femininity space, I'll say, for a very, very, very long time. I have been a student of it well over a decade and a practitioner of like operating my life in this world, actually for probably about a decade. But when I sit and I think about it, femininity is about flow. So there was a lot of ebbs and flows that came with me mastering my own goddess energy. And during that time of me mastering my own goddess energy, I unfortunately put myself in toxic relationships. When I really started to focus on this, when I really started to make this like a priority of my life, I realized that there were things that I was subconsciously doing and believing, and just I was navigating in an energy that was telling these men like, it's okay to treat me like shit. It's okay to disrespect me. It's okay to talk to me crazy, talk about me crazy. It is okay to be dismissive of my feelings. Like I was honestly like spewing that energy out, not realizing that that's what I was spewing out. One of the main culprits that really will create that type of an environment is when you have a wounded feminine energy. Actually, first, let's define femininity, because for those of you who, which I'm sure you're probably not new to the world or to the terminology of femininity, but I want to be clear about what I'm referring to. So when I'm talking about femininity, I'm not talking about what it is to be a girl, right? Like you're a girl because your DNA says you're a girl. You wearing pink, like that doesn't make you feminine, right? Femininity, I want you to think about it more from a trait perspective, for its characteristics, not gender, because men and women have masculine and feminine energy. So femininity from the energy perspective, from the traits, character traits, personality traits perspective, I want you to think about it from the perspective of like flow, as I mentioned earlier, fluidity. This is about creativity and expression. The feminine energy is all about intuition. It's about having like an inner divine knowing, and you're operating from that space as opposed to like mental logic, mental focus, things like that. That's more of a masculine trait. Femininity is also about the creativity and the nurturing of things, nurturing of people, of the planet, you know what I mean? So that's feminine energy. When you have a wounded feminine energy, all that essentially means is that you are not internally aligned with your own divine femininity. So what wisdom is to you, what creativity looks like for you, and self-expression, what it means to flow in your day-to-day life, you're not aligned with that, and so you're operating out of a balance. Okay, so you're just not in balance with your feminine energy. That's what that looks like. Femininity, y'all, has very, very little to do with cooking and cleaning and, how pretty you look. Like, yes, that's a part of things, because again, we can tie it all in, right? If you're nurturing your family, you're probably going to clean, you're probably going to cook, you're going to make sure everybody is, healthy, because that's a part of a nurturing dynamic. But that is something that men and women both can do and can excel at. Our society has, of course, talked all of us into believing that these are duties that women are supposed to essentially like align with. And for many women, we do naturally align with those things, but it doesn't make a woman less feminine simply because she says like, I don't like to cook. I'm one of those people, y'all. I can't stand cooking. I don't like to cook. In my 36 years of life, I have recognized I will scrub a toilet before I have to go fry some chicken. Like, and I love actually frying chicken. That I will cook. I will throw down on some chicken. Anyway, back to the topic. So it doesn't really matter if it's if you're someone who's like, I really don't enjoy cooking or cleaning or those kind of domesticated duties. But when you're in an unhealthy relationship, those are typically the things that are going to be attacked first, because you're aligned with someone who essentially has the patriarchal belief system. They believe that that is what makes you a woman. So therefore, they really can't understand or value your energetic presence as what it really means to be a woman, a divine goddess in a relationship. They don't understand and know that because they're not operating from their own elevated state of a mindset or consciousness. But as I mentioned, those things being said to you, those are things that you can utilize, you can learn from, you can grow from, and it can assist you in evolving into a better version of yourself. The wounded feminine is something that typically will attract a toxic or unhealthy partner. And it's honestly because, as I mentioned before, when you operate in wounded feminine energy, you are not in alignment. You're not in balance with yourself. And I want to give you like 4 key ways to know if you could have potentially been operating in a wounded feminine energy in your relationship. The first one being victim mindset. So if you have kind of operated, and this is, y'all, listen, maybe I should have said trigger warning, or maybe I should have said, like, you know, I might step on some toes, because I just jumped right in. So let's double back and try again. I'm gonna step on your toes. I'm gonna step on your toes just a little bit, but okay. First things first is if you operate your life as a victim. If things are always everybody else's fault, if it's always a why is this happening to me, and I don't understand why this is happening to me, and you know, well it's not my fault, I didn't do it, it's just because, you know what I mean? If that's the way that you operate your life, and I want you to be honest with yourself, is that how you operate your life, sis? Do you go around looking for someone else to blame? Toxic people do that. Toxic men do it, toxic women do it, where you have just no self-governance. There's no self-responsibility. And I'm going to tell you, I've never really been a victim mindset type of person, but the second one that I'm about to talk about, that was me all the way. And they really do go hand in hand with one another. When you operate in goddess embodiment energy, when you are truly waking up and going to sleep thinking like, okay, as a goddess, how do I operate? As a goddess, how do I live in this life? How do I respond to my partner? How do I respond to my friends, to my family, to my job, to work, to business, whomever, to my children? How do I operate and respond? There is so much responsibility, self-responsibility, self-accountability that you have to have that I did not always have. If I'm being completely honest with you, I did not always operate like that. And when you operate in a state of victimhood, where you are constantly looking for someone else to be at fault, that really is a surefire way to attract very toxic, very ill-mannered people into your life. And these partners can see that. So what typically happens is you're either going to align with another victim, or you're going to align with someone that will constantly victimize you. Those are typically the 2 things that happen. And so I really want you to do a bit of a self-assessment. If you can account for at least, I'm going to say 3 to 5 things, like major things in your life where you did not take accountability, you knew that you were lazy in that relationship. You knew that you were, you know, dismissive. You knew that you had no regard for him and you just really wanted a man on your arm. Well, again, it doesn't justify his behavior. It doesn't justify why he was treating you the way he did, because as a grown man, able-bodied, sound-minded adult, you can leave, right? But I want you to think about it from the perspective of, I didn't show up as my best self in that relationship either. I didn't show up like a woman who wanted to be in a healthy partnership either. And so since I didn't show up like that, I aligned with someone who was never going to be able to give me that, because we can talk and say all day long that that's what we want. But if we don't show up that way, then we will find ourselves essentially aligned to people who will give us what we are honestly energetically connected with. And a victim is always going to be connected to someone who is either a victim. So this person's either going to be a mirror to you, or they are going to be someone that will constantly victimize you. And the people who are quick to put you in a state of victimhood, they are typically the ones that are, it's almost like they're the antagonist and they're the rescuer at the same time, if that makes sense. That wounded feminine energy is showing up through victimhood or through a victim mindset. Now, the second one, y'all, as I mentioned before, I am guilty. Well, I can't say anymore. I'm not guilty anymore. I was guilty 100%. Rescue me. Rescue me. Oh my gosh, somebody's gonna come and rescue me. Like, it's okay. I have a man and my man's gonna rescue me. Like, it's perfectly, you know what? I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about getting this transmission, worked on. I don't have to worry about getting oil changes. I don't have to worry about having really any money in my account, because my man, I have a man. So, he's gonna rescue me. Y'all, I was that girl. I'm bullshit you not. And it's funny now I'm sitting here thinking about it. I was that girl, okay? And now when I think about it, like, God, how embarrassing. But in my relationships, that's how I showed up. And I didn't realize it for a long time that that is how I was showing up. And, you know, some people, especially like psychologists that I had, therapists, even when I've gone to therapy, like people that I have spoken to, studies that I've read, they like to account it to being a last born. Now, I am a last born. I'm the baby of the family. But to be honest with you, I never felt like I was treated like the baby, number one. My family, you know, my siblings could feel different, but that's not really how I, you know, viewed my childhood and growing up. I felt very much so like a loner, you know what I mean? I was by myself a lot. And I remember feeling like I was almost raising myself, especially in my teenage years. If it wasn't really my friends that were kind of helping me, guiding me, maybe some of my teachers. My mother worked a lot. She worked a lot. And my father was not present. So for me, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like I lived my life as a last born. So I don't know if there's validity to that. But what I will tell you, no matter where it stems from, when you become an adult woman, when you start really choosing that you want better, when you start deciding that you want better for yourself, you have to be your own rescue. I actually have a video coming up, and I'm just going to give you all the spoiler alert. It is called Save Yourself, Babe. Like, that's going to be the title of that next video. It'll drop in a couple of days. But save yourself. Goddesses save themselves. We don't look for rescuers anymore. That's how I knew that I was like really getting into my sovereignty. When I stopped looking for other people to be the answer to every problem that I had. When I stopped expecting for people to just show up because of our relationship dynamic. This was one of my traits. This was one of the areas that I really had to work on and like stop playing games around. Because when you operate like that, especially if you are dealing with other areas of wounded femininity, you're not going to attract your Prince Charming. You're not going to attract the knight in shining armor and the provider male that's just going to come in and fix everything for you. You're going to attract a groomer. Let me be so for real. You're going to attract a groomer. You're going to attract someone who is looking at you and saying, oh, she wants to be a dependent. Let me treat her like one. She wants to be somebody who is taken care of. But in order for me to take care of her, she has to be submissive. She has to do what I say. This becomes a very father-daughter dynamic more than anything. Now, also, let me make sure I'm fully transparent. I do have a tendency of liking older men. I just do. Listen, I like a little gray. I like a little gray beard. Not to like salt and pepper. That's what it's called. I like a little salt and pepper. I do. But what I have found is, first of all, salt and pepper men are just as immature as the men my age and younger. That is something that I have acknowledged and learned over time. And now that I'm back in like dating and things like that, I have certainly found that out. But if you are dealing with someone who is not a healthy masculine man and you are a younger woman, and this is why I also have such a worry around like the whole age gap relationships conversations. It worries me that women are becoming more comfortable with this idea of dating men and marrying men significantly older than them. It is because you are entering a state of grooming. And what grooming is, for those of you that don't know, grooming is when you are essentially in a relationship where he is altering what your womanhood looks like. He's altering what you show up as, who you are, how you are, what you like, what you don't like. And I promise you, all of that grooming that's happening in that, or that would happen in that relationship, it is not to your benefit. You might get a little trinket here and there. You might get a bill paid here and there. But it is, oh my God, when I tell you, it is such a better feeling to be a sovereign woman. It is such a better feeling to have so much control over yourself. And that's really what being sovereign is. It's to have governance over yourself, over your own mind, your own looks, your own spirituality, your own belief systems, your own career choice, your own body physically, how many children you have, all like you being a self-governed woman. That is going to be, I mean, in my opinion, at least, the best way to go when you are on planet Earth, okay, as a woman. So the rescue me shows up though as a way of displaying that there is a wounded feminine energy there. Okay, when you are looking for someone else to solve your problems, especially those major life problems. Okay, so when you need someone to, oh, well, my credit is messed up, so I need you to put your name has to be on the mortgage. Been there, did that. Okay, because I was not responsible enough to say, let me manage my own finances. Let me make sure that my credit, my name is good, so that I'm always in a position to secure myself a place to live. Right? I've been down that road. That's because subconsciously I was looking for someone to just be my rescuer. I didn't have it in me. I didn't feel equipped to rescue myself. And topic point, hold on, pause. Okay, I had to write that down because I didn't want to forget that. That's gonna go in that other video. But sometimes that's what happens though, and there's all different reasons as to why this happens, but I just want to talk about some of the main highlighted ways that wounded feminine energy will show up in a negative relationship or in a toxic relationship, just so that you can be aware and really ask yourself, did I show up like that? If you showed up like that and you can resonate with having a partner that was very controlling, usually someone who is in victimhood and someone who is in a rescue me mentality, which is also honestly, I guess, an extent of victimhood if we really think about it. But when you show up like that, you probably have had a partner who is very controlling. Very, very controlling, because you have essentially said, I release control. I don't have control. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to fix this problem, or it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't me. It was you. It was that person. It was my job. It was the rest of the world. It just wasn't my fault. So let's move on to the third way that wounded feminine energy can show up in an unhealthy relationship. And that is when you are suppressed from expression. So suppression from expression. And as I mentioned earlier, divine feminine energy or healthy feminine energy, it is all expressive. Now, expression looks different, obviously, for everyone. I won't jump too deep into that topic. But when you felt suppressed, when you felt smothered or silenced, and typically that will stem from childhood. That will stem from okay, you were ridiculed for dressing a certain type of way. Or I will tell you guys, body shaming showed up early for me in my youth, when I was always pear-shaped. So I've always been a pear-shaped girl. I'm a part of the itty bitty committee. All right. And for me, I remember when I was getting made fun of for being this toothpick with a butt. And this is 12, you know what I mean? When girls should not even be sexualized like that. When girls should, we shouldn't be thinking and looking at young girls, who are obviously maturing now. They're getting into puberty and things like that. But I remember, being teased at school and at home. When I tell you, oh, y'all, never mind. We're not finna bring up old memories. But I remember those days. And so, it really made me feel some type of way when I'm just trying to navigate in my body. I'm trying to understand my body, but I don't even have space. I don't have a room to express myself. So I want to actually stop right here really quick just to talk to my moms of daughters. Now, I am a boy mom. I am a boy mom, okay? So I understand that there is a difference in terms of how we raise our children, right? And I'm not trying to regulate parenting. Just want to throw out a suggestion here. Please do not, ladies, if you have a young daughter, please do not hypersexualize her, but also don't smother her sexuality either. And here's what I mean when I say her sexuality. I'm not talking about gender identification. I'm not talking about, preferences. That's not what I'm referring to. Being a sexual creature is something that is quite normal. Everyone is going to experience it. When you don't know how to have the appropriate conversations with children, what typically tend to happen, and I think this is especially in older generations, because we didn't have the language, we didn't know how to communicate with our children, we would just suppress it. We would just mute them. No, you can't ask me questions about boys. No, you can't, you know what I mean? Why are you dressed like that? No, you can't show your stomach. Or those shorts are too little for you. They too short. You can't wear Daisy Dukes. I don't even know if they still call them Daisy Dukes. But don't do that. And the reason why I'm saying don't do that, find a different way. Find a way to sit down and have the conversations with your daughters about the things that are happening to their bodies, the things that they are feeling and thinking as it pertains to the opposite sex and dating and you know, all the things. And I say this because if we don't, number one, the world is going to show them something, right? And if you want your daughter to be in her goddess energy early on, promote and support that in her. And a part of being a divine goddess, an inner goddess, a goddess embodied woman is to embrace all aspects of your femininity. And of course, we would do this at age appropriate times and conversations, but I just want to throw that out there because a part of that suppression through expression, it does typically happen at a very young age. And I don't necessarily, you know, I'm not always quick to blame the parents because sometimes the parent just doesn't know. They just don't have the knowledge. But in our day and age, we do have the knowledge. So one way to really help yourself when it comes down to the own suppression of your divine feminine expression is to make it a point every single day, do something that expresses what divine femininity feels and looks like to you. Not to your partner, not to a prospective partner, not to anybody else. What does it look like for you to express divine femininity? I want you to really label it first. Give it its definition as to how it resonates with you, and then work on expressing that every single day. That's how you can really help to heal that side of wounded feminine energy. But when that shows up in relationship, again, you are typically going to find someone who is going to either mirror that to you. But what most commonly happens, if I'm really sitting and thinking about it, y'all, what most commonly happens if you felt suppressed growing up, you're going to find someone who is going to constantly try to muzzle you. That's someone that looks like how they're always demeaning you. You feel like your voice doesn't matter in the relationship. You might feel like, you know, the things that are important to you, you are constantly finding partners where they just have no regard for the things that are important to you, and they're not even trying to, you know, consider it. They're not trying to be inclusive. You are essentially like the trophy, you know what I mean? You're just the one that's supposed to sit there, be quiet, be cute, you know what I mean, and cater to their needs. That type of unhealthy dynamic typically will happen in a relationship if you are someone that has felt like I have been suppressed from being able to express myself in the way that most aligns with me. So that's how it will show up in unhealthy relationship. The last one is going to be the need to please. Baby, I also can resonate because I used to feel like that was just what I was supposed to do in order to receive love, in order to receive validation, in order to receive any sort of acknowledgement in who I was and what I was, you know, good at, capable of doing. I have to please you. I have to make sure you're good. I need to take care of you. And as I'm pretty sure you know, if you have been a people pleaser, I'm pretty sure you can already see very quickly how that'll show up in a unhealthy relationship dynamic. You're gonna get a user. You're going to get someone who is willing to use you. You are going to get the opportunist. You're going to also get someone who's controlling, because typically a person who is very controlling in nature, they are controlling like that because they are only thinking about themselves in the relationship. They're only thinking about, how does this benefit me? How am I going to get value from this? They're going to look out for self first. I used to say that to my ex-husband all the time. Like, the one thing you're going to do is, it doesn't matter what's happening in this family, it doesn't matter what's going on with these kids, you're gonna make sure you're taken care of first. You know, and this is with we had a small child and an adult disabled child, but it's you're gonna make sure you're good first. And if I'm being honest with you guys, that used to bother me. It used to bother me so bad, because I used to sit there and how could you, and he was, y'all, there was so much wrong with that man. But one thing he was really good at that you'll also find, let me stay on topic. One thing that you'll find though from those type of people, the opportunists, is they know how to shapeshift very well. So they know how to shift when they need to. If you start feeling like I'm being used, if you start feeling like, okay, wait, why does it feel like I am getting the short end of the stick out of this relationship? They will pivot. They will pivot quickly. They will start catering to you. They'll give you what you need. They'll give you what you're asking for, just to keep you in the fold, to go back to your people pleasing nature, because they've already identified that that is who you are. That's how you'll be. That is wounded feminine energy, though. There is something that took place at some point in your life. Could have been childhood, could have been another relationship, it could have been your friendship dynamic, work. You know, there's so many things that could have happened in life that could have triggered your need to please others ahead of yourself. But number one, I will tell you that that is not like goddess embodied energy. I love to study goddesses, right? So I love to study all different, you know, pantheons, and I would be what you would consider like a polytheist. But I love studying them, and one thing that I've learned in my studies of goddesses, they are self-preservers. Yes, they're nurturers. Yes, they're lovers. Yes, they are, you know, whimsical. They are magical beings, but they are self-preservers. They understand that in order for them to help the collective, in order for them to help the masses, help other people, help their families, their friends, their communities, they have to take care of themselves first and foremost. And when you are operating from a state of people pleasing, that means that there is a disconnect. There's something going on within you that makes you feel like I don't matter enough here. And or it's a situation of, in order for me to matter, I have to give and give and give and deplete. I have to keep depleting, then I'll matter, right? That's wounded feminine energy. And so these are some of the just popular, very common ways that it will show up in a relationship. So I say all of this to you, and I share all of this with you because the question is, do you attract toxic partners? Possibly. And if you do, own that. If you do, take responsibility for that. That's nothing that can't be fixed. It's nothing that can't change. I was one of those people where I used to attract toxic partners. I used to attract men that were users, that were opportunists, that were disrespectful, verbally abusive, all the things, financially abusive. I used to be that way. And when I started becoming a lot more self-obsessed, when I started, you know, operating, like I said earlier, in a goddess state of consciousness in my mind, I wake up and go to sleep every day. You're going to hear me say this in a lot of videos. Go to sleep and wake up every day. I am a goddess. How do goddesses operate? And we're going to dive more into that, and I'll definitely share like all the things that I've learned over the years. But it's when you start really like showing up like that, I promise you, these men, you will repel them. You will repel them. To give you guys just a quick example before we close out. On social media, there's a really big topic of conversation that's, you know, there's no more chivalry and chivalry is dead, and, you know, the modern men just don't do X, Y, and Z anymore. Do y'all know that within like a month or two after I was like officially divorced, and I honestly think this happened because I had to remove the energy of the warlock. Okay, I had to remove the energy of the vampire first out of my life. The way that men talk to me, the way that they approach me, the things that they do for me, many times on a random occasion, I have had men come up to my vehicle just to pump my gas. No, didn't ask for my number, nothing. I had a man, it was winter one year, and we had like this little ice storm here in Texas. And when I told y'all, I was at the door of the store, and this man, I mean, mind you, fine man too, tall, like the whole nine, probably around my age. Like, he just came up to me, was like, I can carry those to your car for you. Thank you. You know what I mean? And that's what you'll learn as you start operating more too in your divine feminine energy, and you don't suppress that yourself anymore. It's going to be so easy to say thank you. It's going to be so easy to be like, yes, of course you could do that for me. Oh my God, thank you. I appreciate you. You know what I mean? It's going to get easier to do. But don't believe the hype that, you know, men your age or men of a specific race or men of a specific income, you know, bracket. I love to call them well-resourced men, because let's keep it a buck. There's not enough millionaires who are single, who are heterosexual, who are healthy in their minds and in their spirit, physically healthy, emotionally, all the healthies. There's not enough of them for all the women in the world who want them. Okay, so And I'm not saying that it's not possible to go get you a millionaire, girl. Go bag you a millionaire, okay? What I'm saying though is well-resourced men. Because the well-resourced men, they are all encompassing. They have the bag, yes, and in whatever price point that looks like for you. But they also have the ability, they have the mental intelligence to get things done for you that maybe money, where money doesn't fit. They have connections. Like there's a lot more to resources than just tangible, another conversation. I share all of that with you though, because I really want for you to just take a look at that list. Okay. The 4 things is just a quick summary of what we went over. If you have had a victim mindset in your relationships, if you have had a rescue me syndrome, you are looking for everybody to rescue you. If you are in a suppression of your feminine expression, if that's the way you've been living your life, if that's the way you've operated in your relationships, or if you have had a need to please, all of those are ways that wounded feminine energy is showing up in your relationships. All of those are going to attract toxic men. They're going to attract the men who will be the users, the abusers, the manipulators, the narcissists, you know what I mean? And there's far more diagnosis outside of narcissistic personality disorder, y'all. But they're going to attract the warlocks. I'm talking to my woo-woo girls now. The warlocks, the spiritual vampires, the jesters. They're going to attract those caliber of men. That's not the only men that exist though. Healthy love still happens. It still exists. And I am not going to ever promote toxic love. Like I'm never going to promote be toxic or my heart was broken one day with one of, a really divine woman that I really looked up to made a comment about telling men to be a little more toxic. And that was something that was just heart-wrenching because it was like, this is someone who was promoting, relationships and all of those things. And so in the live, she talked about basically where she was coming from and how women don't truly want healthy relationships, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. But, I'm never going to promote that as women, we should be toxic even a little bit. Now, is it a part of our human nature to be unhealthy or to have unhealthy characteristics? Yes, that is a part of this duality and human experience. But when you operate in goddess energy, you learn to control those things better. You learn to regulate yourself faster. You learn to put yourself in an environment with men who do the same or do similar. So just spend some time really looking at that list and asking yourself, like, have I shown up like this in my relationships that I deemed to be unhealthy? If you did, really start spending some time like getting focused on tweaking and changing those parts of who you are, because not only is it going to help you with what you really desire, which is healthy relationships, but it's also going to make you just a better, well-rounded woman. It's going to help you with how you show up in the world outside of your relationship, which in my opinion is far more important. Like who you are as an individual woman is the most important part of you, not your relationship status. But because you're a lover girl, I'm a lover girl, like this is our vibe. I understand the desire to want to be in healthy relationships. So like I said, if you could resonate with any of this, drop a little hand, a little church finger in the comments. Let me know what y'all thought about it. If there's any other traits that you've noticed that do resonate with that wounded feminine energy, just so that other people are aware, because I know I didn't touch on everything, drop it in the comments. Like, let's talk about it. All right. So until next time, be well.